world of data has grown exponentially.
The appetite has never been stronger than it is today.
What we've been able to do is move at the speed of thought.
What's interesting is all the unexpected things you might find in there.
I get to be part scientist and part artist.
Let's tap into that table and see what it can tell me. And all of a sudden, whoosh,
My job just got 10 times more fun.
Being able to understand data is good for all of us. We can have a clearer understanding of the world.
And then act on it, that's powerful. That's life-changing.
And it's just going to continue to grow.
It's a quirky culture.
These are people who want to solve real problems, having discovered a new tool
that we all share a love for.
All in one place, all with a similar passion,
which is just exciting.
Welcome to the Tableau Conference 2014. Neil deGrasse Tyson is here. So is Hans Rosling, Michael Lewis, and John Medina. With 270 breakout sessions, over 100 customer sessions, more than 1,500 Tableau doctor appointments, and one amazing night out. This is Destination Data. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage CEO and co-founder Christian Chabot.
Welcome to Tableau Software's 7th annual customer conference. Thank you so much for coming. Our goal is to make this event the annual gathering of data lovers, data leaders, data geeks, and data enthusiasts everywhere. This conference began 7 years ago at a little hotel just down the street from here called the Edgewater. 180 people came. The next year, 300. Then 700 and 1,200 and 2,000 and 3,000. And this year, 5,500 data lovers are here, and we're thrilled to welcome you to our hometown. Thank you for coming. You've come in from every corner of the world. You've traveled from Boston and New York and DC. You've come in from Los Angeles and Chicago and Miami, even from London and Tokyo and Mexico City. Well, let me be the first to say, welcome to Seattle. This time of year, we're preparing for our fall harvest. Although we're a big group this year, this community is already connected in some wonderful ways. Many of you publish on the public web using Tableau Public. Matt Francis is here today. A few weeks ago, Matt taught us how the sun controls the weather. Matt works in genomics by day, but at night can't resist geeking out with astrophysics data. Ramon Martinez works at the Pan American Health Organization, but also runs a personal data blog on global health issues. Kelly Martin, a self-professed grandmother data geek, recently taught us about the history of oil spills in North America. Kelly publishes regularly on the web using data she finds in the public sphere. In fact, the crazy data sources this community unearths every year never cease to amaze me. Ryan Robitaille, for instance, uncovered the official US Bigfoot sightings database. Ryan taught me that there have been 424 Class A Bigfoot sightings right here in this area. And so if you're planning on going for a hike this weekend, remember it's incredibly dangerous out there. The opportunity to speak to this great community of data lovers is an honor. I'd like to start this conference by talking about two things. I'd like to talk about Tableau Software's mission, and I'd like to show you what we're doing to help you with yours. I'll start by saying that we live in a marvelous age of computing. How far we've come since the beginning. This was the first machine for analyzing data from 1890. Census records were fed in as punch cards, and the machine counted them. General purpose computers came later. In the 1950s, this one known as ENIAC filled a room 50 feet long, but it could do calculations in 30 seconds that previously took 12 hours. Of course, personal computers brought this power to everyone, and today our computers are everywhere and they're amazing. They do billions of operations per second. They're processing complex concepts. They're embedded in tiny devices. Their power is often used to take away drudgery. They're sorting our mail and detecting fraud and routing traffic. They're even in self-driving cars that have the steering wheels removed. But here's the thing. At Tableau, we believe the most exciting advancements in the computer revolution are of a different variety altogether. We believe the most exciting advancements in computing are those that expand our creative potential as human beings. At Tableau, we want to give you a steering wheel, not take one away. We believe the next great steps in computing aren't about automating the routine, they're about unleashing the tremendous creative potential of our minds. An example of a computing advancement that did this was made by Chuck Geschke and John Warnock. In 1982, they developed a new approach to artistic design on a computer. They formed a company and called it Adobe. Their invention was PostScript, a mathematical approach to describing creative work on a machine. It let people mix graphics and fonts on a single page and send the results at any scale to a printer from any manufacturer. Before PostScript, publishing required typesetting and specialized print jobs done on contract with specialists. Creativity was limited to the few, but PostScript was a breakthrough. It gave birth to desktop publishing and has unleashed generations of creative thought. Another example of a creative computing breakthrough was computer-aided design. The ability to construct and modify designs virtually. Imagine you were a designer before CAD. Your work was on paper. Changing a design once you'd started it was painful. Imagine you just finished this design and your client said, hey, we were thinking of moving the master bedroom to the first floor. It was extremely frustrating. Experimentation, generating new ideas was costly. But with CAD, suddenly you could drag shapes around on the fly, investigate new angles spontaneously. You could figure out immediately whether a new idea entering your head was a good one or not. It was incredibly empowering for people. Ideas became putty in their hands for the first time thanks to computers. And the world has been tremendously improved because of it. An exciting thing happening right now in software, by the way, is that creative tools are becoming even easier to use. creative tools have often required a fair bit of expertise, but now products like SketchUp and Tinkercad and Paper and others are bringing that creative power to even more people. And already we can see the amazing results that pour out when you help people think creatively. Now, seeing that this is a data conference, some might wonder, why on earth are we talking about creative tools and the art? Well, this community knows the answer. The answer is that data analysis is a creative process. People who work with data are emerging as some of the most important creative problem solvers of the modern organization. People who work with data, who architect it and provision it and secure it and provide it and analyze it are emerging all of a sudden as some of the most important creative thinkers in modern society. And at Tableau, we believe unleashing their creative genius is the most important goal of a modern business intelligence strategy. You know, people think of analysts as different from creative professionals, like artists. In fact, many people would say data analysis and the arts are opposites. But actually, they're very similar. Analysts and artists are both on a mission to reveal something new, to discover truth, to find meaning. Artists challenge us to look at the world differently. And so do you. Analysis and art both require a keen sense of observation and curiosity and creative problem solving. You know, it's broadly acknowledged that creative thinking is crucial to the arts. Well, everyone knows that. But how many people out there would say that supporting creative thinking is a crucial requirement of a business intelligence platform? Well, I've never seen it listed in an RFP. Not ever. BI requirements are always about KPIs and gauges. And that's something we have to change, because creativity in analytics means better answers, clearer thinking, deeper thinking, better ideas. Is there something more important than that? At Tableau, we acknowledge that there's a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn by studying artists and designers and their creative tools. In fact, at Tableau, we acknowledge that to support creative problem solving, analytics software needs to do 4 things, the same 4 things that creative tools do. The first is to encourage experimentation. A central element of creative problem solving is the ability to sketch, to do quick studies and to experiment. Frank Gehry, the pioneering architect, goes from rough conceptual sketches to more detailed versions, to handmade paper models, then on to computer renderings, back and forth through it all again in an iterative flow that produces great innovations, like the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. Andrew Wyeth, the great American artist, would start with charcoal drawings, just really rough notations to himself. He would advance some of those to more detailed studies in charcoal. Some of those would qualify for advancement and treatment in watercolor. And if something was going well, then he would begin his actual work in oil paint. Creative thinkers Start by exploring a space, throwing up ideas, backtracking, refining, redoing before honing in on the best articulation of their idea. Innovators in virtually every field tell us that fast prototyping is crucial to effective problem solving. Inventors know this better than anyone. The Wright brothers cycled through countless designs before finding one that worked. And so, imagine the impact of bringing experimentation and fast prototyping to your data strategy. What if the people in your company were given the tools of invention? The opportunities you will uncover will explode. Look what's happened in photography. 20 years ago, we all had film in our cameras. 36 shots on a roll. Every shot had a cost and was a little risky. 5 more days of vacation, but just 3 shots left. Right? As a result, opportunities were missed. The limitations of the technology made us miss opportunities. Look what's happened with digital cameras. Now people try anything and everything. They test and refine and experiment on the fly. There's no cost to trying something new. In fact, it's a pleasure. And photographic work has never been higher quality than it is today. Online communities filled with stunning photography have emerged. And even better, they're populated not just by professionals, but by ordinary people. Now, I bring this up because Tableau is architecting software to support fast experimentation with data. We're creating an analytics system that embraces fast prototyping and creative experimentation so that ideas become putty in your hands. That is an essential part of our product design philosophy. And you're going to see the newest improvements to that experience this morning. A second key attribute of software that supports the creative process is speed. The system needs to provide feedback to the creator immediately. Imagine if you were an artist and you made a mark on paper and it showed up 10 minutes later. It would be impossible to work. Artists need immediate feedback in order to maintain connection with their ideas and to keep their focus. That's why Tableau has been investing in one big speed improvement after another. You're going to see the next big wave of performance improvements on stage this morning so that you can stay connected to your work and chase your ideas. The third requirement, third crucial attribute of a software system that supports creative problem solving is expressiveness. Brilliant artists don't use paint-by-number worksheets. They don't confine themselves to the prison of prior expression. They start with a blank canvas or a block of wood, and they carve out their unique thoughts in the medium. Well, when it comes to data, expressiveness is just as important. But it isn't something business software has ever been very good at. For how many years has business intelligence software, for instance, been dominated by templates and dialogue boxes and wizards, constraining our thoughts to a narrow, pre-approved path of thinking? At Tableau, we're trying to expand your expressiveness with data by giving you a canvas for innovation. In fact, when we first launched Tableau, something unexpected happened. We expected people to create results like these, familiar visualizations, and you did. But then we received this visualization from a customer one day. And then a few weeks later, this one. And then this one. And over the years, it's kept on happening. Now, at first, we thought you were just playing around. But then you taught us that this is a fantastic way to look at airline flight volume and their average delays for a cluster of airports over time. You can pluck out the key findings right away. And this is a fantastic way to look at video game gameplay data that helps craft a better experience for the user. And so on down the line. Your creativity has inspired us. And today we are as emboldened as ever to make expressiveness an essential part of an analytics system. That leads me to the fourth crucial requirement of analytics software that supports creativity, and that is giving people control. When you have an inspired idea, you need to do it yourself, just like an artist would. Something's in your mind's eye, and you need to get it out. Jackson Pollock didn't walk around telling other people to splatter it like this or splatter it like that. Da Vinci didn't do his great work by filling out a painting request form. He was in the creative flow himself. And that's what we're trying to bring to you with our investments. The ability to flow with data. We want to help you build a culture of creative analytics in your companies that's empowering and satisfying for people and brings out the best in them. Experimentation, speed, expressiveness, and control. Those are the crucial design requirements of a 21st century business intelligence system, and that is the system we're building for you. Now, this mission is about serving brilliant people. It's also about building brilliant companies. Imagine two companies. The first has analytics software that supports creative problem solving, that encourages the people of the environment to ask new questions, that is designed as a matter of leadership and strategy to unlock the creative ingenuity of its people. The second company is stuck with old school enterprise software. It's development intensive. Ideas have to be sent off to specialists, like film being sent off to the lab for development and then lost. People don't feel inspired or creative or in control. Which company would you rather work for? Which company would you bet on? More and more, customers are choosing the path of creativity. I'm pleased to say that your support of this mission is causing Tableau to thrive. We started Tableau in 2003, and by the end of 2004, we had reached our first 200 customers, 200 organizations. By the end of 2008, the year of our first annual customer conference, that had grown 10x to 2,000 customers. Last month, we announced we had reached 20,000 customers, another 10x growth. Thank you for your support and evangelism on this journey. We're on the way. Thank you. We're on our way to even bigger growth now, the next 10x, and that growth will fund even more research and development. In fact, Tableau is on track to invest more in research and development in the next 2 years than in our entire lifetime as a company. More R&D investment in this direction in the next 2 years than in the 10 years of engineering that brought Tableau 8 to market. On that note, let's turn to the demonstrations. Today, we'd like to show you the next investments we're making in the mission. They fall into 7 areas: visual analytics, performance, data preparation, storytelling, enterprise, cloud, and mobile. I'd like to invite some of our inventors to the stage in each area. The first area is visual analytics. Visual analytics is Tableau's hallmark product experience. The ability to explore and manipulate data graphically. Our dream is to give you the ultimate canvas for expressing your thoughts. A canvas that supports easy, direct, reversible actions on data. To show you the next improvements in our visual analytics experience, please welcome to the stage Tableau's co-founder and Chief Development Officer, Dr. Chris Stolte.
Thank you, Christian. Good morning, everybody. It is so great to have all of you here. Now, you know, at Tableau, we view analytics as a process of experimentation. We want to give you a sketch pad where you can easily express your thoughts. That's why since the beginning, we've been working on designing software that lets you get in that creative flow of analysis and gives you flexibility. Instead of complex wizards and dialog boxes, we want to give you immediate feedback and direct interaction. So before I show you some of the new features we've got, and we've got some amazing features, I first want to look at how you can explore and experiment in Tableau today. So what I have loaded here is Tableau version 8.2, and I've opened up a really interesting data set. This is global greenhouse gas emissions data. And the way that you explore this data in Tableau is just start dragging fields out onto the canvas. Every action you take gets an immediate response, and we can quickly find the top producers of emissions. We can add details about the types of emissions, and we can experiment. And we're doing all of this just by simple interactions with the data. Every question we ask gets a response. And that's critical because it lets us see what we're creating, and that gives us a chance to adapt our experiments. And now if our question changes, well, we can easily change our perspective. We can go in and we can summarize the data, we can pivot it, and we can rearrange it in just the right way to answer our next question. The key here is getting into that flow of analysis, changing perspective, and experimenting. We want to bring that fluid experimentation to all aspects of the product. We want you to feel like you're working with your data and not the software. And we're working on a number of really big steps forward. So let me show you some of the new features. So I'm now going to switch over to the version of Tableau we've been working on. And we're going to start our analysis again. The question I want to answer is, well, what are the trends in emissions? And where are these emissions coming from? We'll start in a familiar way just by dragging total emissions onto the canvas. And now I want to turn this into a time series. But I'm going to do this differently than you're used to. You know, for all the problems and limitations that we all know spreadsheets have, they do one thing brilliantly. I can just reach out anywhere on the canvas, and I can type in my thoughts. Well, what if we could bring that to Tableau? In this case, we know exactly what we want to do. So what if we could just come up here to the column shelf, double-click, and type in the field we wanted. The view updates, and we accept it. So that was pretty quick, so let me try that again. I'm going to break down the types of emissions. We'll look at vehicle emissions and oil emissions. Whoa. Vehicle emissions. And we're going to look at oil emissions. And we'll even look at coal emissions here. And notice as I'm adding this field that I get autocomplete right on the field. This makes it really easy to get the field that I want and to add it to the view. Now, being able to type directly into a field, it helps us stay in the flow of analysis and quickly construct a sophisticated view. And we're getting constant feedback as we do it. Furthermore, we can interleave this with drag and drop. I can go in and break this down by the top countries, drag that out to color, bring that out to the label. And let's simplify this view a little bit. Now, I want to draw your attention to something. This view is really interesting. Take a look at the US and China. I'll focus in. These are the two biggest producers of emissions, and they have very different trends. China, look at the last couple of years. It's just surging upward. Look at the US. It's almost flattening out. But we're in experimentation mode. A question we always need to be asking is this the right way to look at this data? Should we be taking the size of the economy into account? Maybe instead of looking at total emissions, we should be looking at emissions normalized by GDP. But I don't have that calculation in my data set. You know, I'm just in this experimentation mode, and I'm not even sure if that's useful, so I don't want to go and add it to my data model. But what if I could type a field in earlier? What if I could type in a calculation? So why don't we just go up here to the row shelf, go to that field we brought out earlier, and just double click. And now I can go in and type divided by average GDP. The view updates, and we can see the new trend. We were able to type a calculation directly into a shelf and get immediate feedback as we did it. And this new experiment we just ran, well, it's showing us a really different trend. Compare the unnormalized data, look at China there, to the normalized data. Unnormalized and normalized. But in our experimentation, I mean, is this the right way to look at the data? China has so many more people than the US. Maybe instead we should normalize by population. Well, not only do I not have a calculation that normalizes emissions by population, I don't even have population in my data set. But I do have it in another data set here. Got a data set here. What if I could go and take population from this data set and bring it into that calculation? Let's just double click, grab population, drop it right on our calculation, the view updates, and we have a new perspective. So what just happened there? We were in the flow of analysis, and we had a question come up that required integrating multiple data sources. That sounds complicated, and we were able to achieve it just by a double click and a drag. I didn't even have to name my calculation. We call these free-form calculations. I was able to just double click and explore my thoughts like I was sketching on a sketch pad. But we're just getting started here. Oh, wait. This experiment shows something very different than the last. We've got the normalized by economy and normalized by population. And at this point, we can see that this is some pretty complicated data. Every different perspective we look at, it tells a different story. Now, I know I want to keep exploring this data, but I want to be able to add this to my data model as well and be able to share this normalized calculation with other people in the organization. So I just grab it, I drag it over to the data window, and give it a name. And like that, I've changed my data model to have this new calculation. But we're just getting started. I have another sheet here that's using an existing calculation together with total emissions. And what I'd like to do on this sheet is explore the question, well, what would the impact on these trends be if we could dramatically reduce coal emissions? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and edit this calculation. And this brings up our new calculation editor. This new calculation editor, it looks much simpler than our old editor, but it's actually much more powerful. One of the things that it does is it lets me edit the calculation and interact with the view at the same time. What this means is I don't have to go in and edit my calculation and close the dialog and interact with the view and realize, well, I want to change that calculation. Open the dialog, edit the view. Instead, I can just fluidly move back and forth. The other thing it gives me is autocomplete. So asking that question is really easy. I can just go in and say, well, what would happen if we reduced half of coal emissions? And the view updates. And we can go in and see that would have a big impact on the US, and it would also have a really big impact on China. And we can refine our question and say, well, what if we reduced 80% of emissions? And the view updates. Or what if we completely reduced all coal emissions? But this editor, it also supports drag and drop. So if we want to completely change our question, say, instead of asking what's the impact of reducing coal emissions, we want to ask what's the impact of reducing vehicle emissions? Well, I just grab that field from the data window and drag it into my calculation, and the view updates. So we just completely changed our calculation through a simple drag and drop. And in this new view, we can see that vehicle emissions, well, reducing those would have a big impact on the US, but they really don't impact China very much at all. And I'll hypothesize this is because we have many more cars on the road in the US and they're driven more, where most of China's emissions come from coal-based energy plants. So we can now see that calculation authoring, it has that same interactive experience that viz creation always had. That means that answering questions is even easier, and that means deeper thinking and better answers. But we've done a lot more than just update calculations. We've made all aspects of analytics much more interactive. In fact, you'll see in Tableau a new side pane. It's called the analytics side pane. And you can toggle between that and the data pane. And this new analytics pane, well, it contains all the objects you need to summarize and model and forecast your data. Let's try it out. I'm going to go to the view here. And this is the total emissions we started with. And I'm going to add a trend line. And I just drag it out onto the canvas. And I get drop spots for each of the different types of models. Let's just drop it on linear. And if you don't like the fit of that, well, we can just pick it up and drop it again, this time on exponential. And we can go ahead and forecast this data as well just by dragging that onto the canvas. You can now add analytical objects to your view with a simple drag and drop. Well, let's explore these new drag and drop objects a little more. I have another view here that's showing the yearly emissions for every country. So here we have the early 60s emissions from the US. And then the countries are ranked top to bottom by their total emissions. We also have groupings of top 10, next 10, etc. I'd like to start just by computing the yearly average for every country. To do that, I'll grab the average reference line, and I'll drag it out into the canvas. And I get a drop spot for table, pane, and cell. Let's just drop it right there. And like that, we added a reference line to our view. Now, another question we might want to ask, let's remove that, is how these different groups compare with each other. I might want to see how the top 10 compare to the next 10. To do that, I'm going to use a median together with the quartiles. Let's grab that object, and let's drop it per pane. Just like that, we added it to our view. Really, really easy. But wouldn't it be cool if reference lines were interactive, if they reacted as you selected marks? Well, here we go. Watch that reference line. I'm just going to click on the US, and it updates to my selection. I have a new reference line here just for the US, and another for the group. What this does is it makes it really easy to compare samples with the group. Let's expand our selection. Let's look at China, the Russian Federation, just the Russian Federation, or even just a set of outliers. Every selection we make, it gives us an instant reference line that I can compare to the line for the entire group. You know, comparing groups is a really important analytical operation, and it's never been easier. Now, the next area I want to talk about is table calculations. You know, table calculations, they're a really powerful analytical technique, but they can be hard to reason about. And that takes you out of your flow of analysis. Well, we're making writing table calculations much, much easier. Consider this view I have here. It's showing coal emissions for the last 30 years. And I've got the countries grouped by the high-income countries, the middle income, etc. And the question I want to answer here is, well, which of these income groups is producing the most emissions? And is that changing with time? Well, to do that, let's add a table calculation. And this brings up our new table calculation editor. And you'll notice right away that the view updated to show our new calculation. As we make changes, the view is responding immediately. This helps us understand what we're creating. I can also interact directly with the view while I'm authoring, so let's turn on data labels. And then notice something else. The top row of marks is highlighted. This is the editor giving us feedback on how the calculation is grouping our data. So it's telling us that this mark here, well, it's part of this group when the total is computed. And this mark here is part of that group. And this mark part of that group. If we change our table calculation, the calculation and the highlighting updates. So we can see what would happen per pane. Or if we do table down. And this new calculation, this is exactly what we want. It's taking each income group and computing it as a % of the whole year. So we can close our editor, and we can answer our question. We can see that the high-income countries used to be the dominant source of all emissions, but that's really gone down. And now the majority of emissions are coming from the middle-income countries. So this is just the first step in rethinking table calculations. We're working on a lot more in this area. It's really exciting. So now there's another area that I want to look at, and that's how do we make consuming a view delightful? We want to make it extremely easy for you to navigate, to select the marks of interest, and to get details on demand. Well, for this next visual analytics innovation, I'm going to switch over to the browser. What I have here is a view of all earthquakes since 1980 that were 6.0 in magnitude or higher. For each earthquake, the only location data I have is the latitude and the longitude. Now, this is a type of view where you just want to start to dive in and explore trends and navigate around the world. So I'm going to double-click and zoom into northern Canada here. But we can make navigation much easier. In fact, we have built geographic search directly into Tableau. You notice this box up here? This is a smart little box. This box knows every place you type into it. Country, city, state, zip code. Let's try it out. Let's go look at earthquakes in Greece. And it takes us right there. Or we could look at earthquakes in California. So what's happening here? Well, there's two really important things. The first is I don't have countries or states built into my data set. All that knowledge is built into Tableau. It knows exactly where to pan and zoom. The second is that adding this search box, it wasn't a complex development project. It was there by default, although you can remove it if you want. Furthermore, it knows about a lot more than just countries and states. We can go and look at all the earthquakes in South America, where there's been a lot of activity lately. Or we can look at cities like Seattle, where happily things have been pretty quiet. This feature is extremely useful, and it's also a lot of fun. Well, now let's get back to analysis. Let's imagine that we're all working together and we want to build a factory or a data center. Knowing what earthquake activity has happened in that particular region would be really valuable knowledge. Let's imagine we're building in Japan. Well, what I want to be able to do is go in and select the marks around a candidate building site. I can do a bunch of rectangular selections, but that doesn't feel right. Much more intuitive to be able to go in and draw a circle centered on the location that I care about. Well, we've been working on building in new selection tools into Tableau. And one of those is radial selection. Let's try it out. Let's imagine we're building down here. We can just go in and dynamically select exactly the marks we care about. That's so cool, I got to try it one more time. So I'm going to do that up here, although I don't think we'd build in the ocean. So now one other scenario we could consider is, well, what if we were research scientists studying tectonic plate boundaries? We wanted to look at the activity happening just along the plate boundary. Consider these plate boundaries in the Atlantic Ocean. I want to be able to select just these earthquakes and drill down more, but I don't want to get the earthquakes that are happening in here. Well, another type of selection we've been working on is lasso selection. Let's try it out. What this lets us do is just draw right on the canvas to select exactly the marks we care about and avoid the marks we don't want to select. Let's consider a slightly less realistic scenario. I'll go in, and let's select some marks in the northern Mediterranean. Maybe the marks here up in Turkey. Grab these ones here, go around and get Italy, but let's avoid these ones there. Lasso selection, it makes it so much easier to select just the data you care about. So as you can see, there are many ways we're making visual analytics easier and more powerful. You've seen a new type-in shelves that let you just type your calculation directly onto the shelf. A new calculation editor that gives you immediate feedback and supports drag and drop. A new table calc editor. A new analytics side pane for adding rich visual analytics to your views. New map navigation tools. And finally, new ways to select data. Each of these makes it possible to experiment and to be creative in the analysis of your data. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. I mentioned earlier how important it is for a creative system to be fast, so that people can explore new ideas as fast as they can think of them. Performance is one of our highest engineering priorities at Tableau, and it's a hard one, because Tableau is a new paradigm for working with information. In the old world of enterprise reporting, data was often nicely prepared in a little data warehouse. BI tools only allowed basic questions to be asked. Usually those were determined in advance, and so making queries fast just wasn't that hard. But in Tableau's world, where people go in any direction with their thoughts spontaneously, pull in data of diverse formats on the fly, making data fast is an engineering marvel. And we have a huge wave of new advancements coming. To show you what I mean, please welcome to the stage our Vice President of Product Development, Andrew Beard.
Well, thank you, Christian. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Seattle. Chris and Christian just spoke about how important it was to stay in the flow of analysis. And one of the most important things we can work on to help here is speed. Our software simply must perform really, really fast. You know, our whole industry struggles with performance every day. But in this new paradigm of data analysis, we have to target getting results to users in seconds or milliseconds, not minutes or hours. It's that level of performance that will keep you in the flow, and I'm here today to tell you some of the things we are working on to make that more of a reality. But before I do that, let me remind you of some of the things we have already done on performance. Embedded in every single copy of Tableau out there is something we call the Viz Engine that we introduced in Tableau version 8. It's a super fast graphics pipeline architecture that lets you render and interact with complex visualizations in real time. And to get there, we reached out to some really cool technology. Hardware-accelerated graphics, the latest graphical support in modern browsers, and dynamic code generation, just to name a few. Let's see it in action. So here I am connected to an 800,000 row data set. Each row contains an X value, a Y value, and a color. And in this viz, I've plotted every single row, all 800,000 of them. And together, it looks like a painting. Well, the viz engine lets this be fast. Tooltips come up immediately. I can rubber band select a bunch of points, and the app responds instantly. And I can zoom in and zoom out, and the app remains fast and fluid. Now, of course, your data is not going to look like a painting. It's going to be a scatter plot of a complex relation or a rich geographic analysis. The point is, you should be able to take a complex visualization of hundreds of thousands of items and interact with it in real time. But the rendering that's enabled by the viz engine is not the only thing we have to make fast. I mean, think about what happens in a data analysis. You've got to start by getting data, whether that's in Tableau's data engine or a really fast database. And then you have to filter and sort and group and aggregate and augment this data and send it through that new graphics pipeline to make it interactive so you can answer your questions. And of course, I want to do all of this at scale. I have data and analysis to share with hundreds or thousands of people in my organization so that they can make great decisions. And I want all of this to be just as fast as when I put the analysis together. Well, it's all of this put together that we have to make fast to succeed in this new paradigm. It's a good thing, we like solving tough problems. So let me show you some of the things that we're working on to make Tableau's products faster than ever before. And let me start by talking about getting data into Tableau quickly. And I'll begin with Tableau's data engine. We built this thing to be really fast. And with each release, we make it even faster. But now, we want to take its performance to the next level. And again, to get there, we're going to reach out to really cool technology. You know, the processors in our computers have been multi-core for a long time now. And that means they're really good at doing multiple things at the same time. Well, some of these processors are also starting to offer vectorized instructions. And that means they can operate on multiple data items simultaneously. And that's exactly what we need for analysis. So what we're working on now is a massive update to the data engine that will take advantage of these multi-core processors and these vectorized instructions. And what all that means is that the queries are going to be much faster. Already right now in early development, we are seeing queries perform 2, 3, 4 times faster than they did in 8.2. Let's take a look. So here I am connected to a database containing all of the taxi rides taken in New York City in 2013. Every single row in this database is a ride. Let's see how many there are. I'll grab number of trips and bring it into the view. And bam, immediately I get an answer, 173 million trips. Now, I'm not going to get very excited quite yet because a lot of databases make simple counts like this really, really easy. So let's dig in deeper. I'll grab pickup date and put it on columns. I'll change the level of the date down to days. And again, I'm getting answers really, really quickly. But think of what's happening here. I have to go through all 173 million rows, pull the day out of the date, bin all of the records by that day, and then count the size of the bins. That's hundreds of millions of operations, if not more, and it happened in the blink of an eye. The new data engine took that computation and spread it out across all the cores in this machine. So I'm running this demo on a MacBook Pro laptop, which has a 4-core processor. And I'm seeing results that are 3 or 4 times faster than an 8.2. And that means I can dig in deeper. So let's dig in deeper. I'll grab pickup borough and put it on color to see where people are coming from. I'll add a quick filter on tip amount. And I will reduce the maximum tip on the filter and bring up the minimum value on the filter and then slide this filter around. And the app is there with me every step of the way, giving me results in the blink of an eye. Now remember, this is, thank you. I'm getting results here that are 3 to 4 times faster than an 8.2, and that's just on my little bitty laptop. Imagine a machine with more cores. Imagine a modern multiprocessor machine. What could this do for your data with the equipment that you have? Well, if it's this fast, I'm willing to interact with an even more complex view. So here's a dashboard that I built. And in this dashboard, the pickup location for the taxi is in the upper left, and the drop-off location is in the upper right. And below that is interesting hourly statistics on the number of rides and the tip amount given for each of those rides. Maybe I'm trying to plan my trip through the city here. Any New Yorkers in the house? Okay, all right. I expected New Yorkers to be a little louder, but that's okay. So maybe I'm starting in Chelsea. And you know what? I'm kind of hungry. I think I want to go down to Coney Island for one of those great Nathan's hot dogs. Doesn't that sound good? Or maybe we'll go up to Brooklyn to Grimaldi's to have a slice of their great pizza. Or maybe, on second thought, what I really need to do is just get back to the airport so I can come back to Seattle for our fabulous summers. Because we made this fast, I could stay engaged with my data and answer question after question or explore point after point. So by taking advantage of the power of these multi-core processors and these vectorized instructions, we can increase the speed of the data engine. As I said, on my demo system, I'm seeing queries run 3 to 4 times faster, and we're just getting started. OK, so we've made the data engine faster. What about live connections? Tableau can connect live to a wide variety of databases, everything from the departmental MySQL server all the way up to the fastest, massively parallel data warehousing appliances. And all these systems try to be fast. The simpler ones do this through efficient query engines, and the fancier ones spread out queries across multiple nodes on a parallel cluster. But they're not perfect. Sometimes they can't use all that power on a single query. Or sometimes there are limits in place that prevent queries from using all the resources on the machine. And that means you don't get the best performance that you can get. Well, we are working on taking more advantage of these machines by sending multiple queries to these systems at the same time in parallel. So let's take a look at an example. So here's another dashboard. This one is on flights data, but it's kind of laid out like the taxi dashboard was. In the upper left, that's where my flight starts. In the upper right, that's where it ends. And below that, there's statistics on the average departure and arrival delays, as well as the number of flights taken by each airline. Kind of a complex dashboard, right? There's six visualizations in it. There's 4 summary statistics at the top, and they all require data from the database. Well, think about what Tableau has to do to build this dashboard. We have to run a query for each one of those graphs, each one of those summary statistics, and it looks like this. So each bar in this view is one query, and you can see Tableau runs them one after the other, end to end. And that means the time it takes to build this dashboard is really defined by the length of all the queries put together. There's databases that can do much more than that. We can decrease the total time to build this dashboard by overlapping these queries and running them in parallel, and that looks like this. So doing this allows us to build this dashboard faster. Doing this allows us to build this dashboard faster, but it also allows us to increase the utilization of the database, and that may help the database share computations between related queries. And that makes a big difference. In 8.2, this dashboard took about 18 seconds to run, and now it runs in 6. And we have a few customers that are using early builds of this feature, and they're seeing some great results as well. Complex dashboards against massively parallel warehouses that take almost a minute to load are now loading in 7 seconds flat. And that's fantastic. So we're working on leveraging the power of these systems that can handle multiple simultaneous query workloads. Running queries in parallel means we can get data back to Tableau faster, and that means faster dashboards. OK, so now we have data coming back from databases faster. We want to support that with even faster interaction. So our theme here has been taking advantage of the capabilities of the client through things like hardware-accelerated graphics and great technology in modern browsers. But it's also meant being willing to do more in the browser, like doing tooltips or highlighting without going back to the server so that the whole interaction is faster. And in Tableau 8.2, we added something called responsive marks, which makes the visualization respond instantly to the mouse, which makes your data feel really alive. And that's the thing that we want to extend next. So let me show you that. OK, so I'm connected to the taxi data again. And I built a viz here that shows all of the zip codes in New York, and they're colored by the average percentage tip that riders have been offering in that zip code. And I can see just by looking at the viz that the best tips are given here in West Queens. Now, tooltips are a really important part of analyzing a viz, right? They give you a lot of extra details about what you're looking at. So we want to make them fast. In fact, we've made them come up instantly now. So as I move around the viz here, the tooltip follows me around and comes up with new data every time I enter a new zip code. And that makes them even more important. Well, when things are this fast, I can actually use it to discover things about the data that I didn't expect. If I look in this area of New York, I can see a couple hundred rides or so per zip code per day. And if I just slide over here next to the zip code I started at, all of a sudden, I see 6,000 rides a day. Well, maybe as a driver, I should focus on this area. And I made this discovery about my data because the tooltips were instant and put that data right in my face. OK, so we're looking at a map view. And we're also working on making map views faster. So I'm looking at just part of the New York City area here. Let's see what's going on down in Staten Island. So I'm going to pan the map. And you'll notice, as I do so, that we're bringing in data and new map tiles as I pan the map, which means I can stay focused on my data and focused on answering my questions. So these are just a couple of the things that we're working on now to make these interactions faster. Showing tooltips continuously with detailed data and bringing in data and map tiles as you pan lets you stay focused on your data and lets you stay focused on answering your questions. OK, let me wrap it all up by talking about doing this at scale. I want to share my work with people in my organization. And maybe I'll send my workbook off to a coworker for them to work with. Or maybe I'll take my data and I'll publish it up to the data server and let people query my data. Or maybe I'll take a dashboard and I'll publish it up to Tableau server so I can reach a much wider audience. Well, whatever the scenario, we want all of this to be as fast, if not faster, than the experience that I had when I put that workbook together or when I put that data set together. So I'd like to finish up here by showing you something we are working on to scale the speed you have seen today across your entire organization. We're looking at taxi data again. You can tell I'm kind of like this taxi data set. Let me start out by just building a viz that I want to share with people. So I'll double click on pick up zip code here. I'm going to build another map and pull tip amount onto color. And that lets me see the average tips offered by riders in each of those zip codes. And this was just as fast as before. But this is not really the story that I want to tell. Right? I want to tell a story around the median, which I think is a better statistic for the analysis I'm trying to do. So I'm going to change my aggregation to median here. And what you'll notice now is this progress dialog comes up. And I guess it's no wonder. I mean, the median is a little bit more complicated than an average. I mean, think of what we have to do. Conceptually, I have to take all 170 million rows and put them in order and then pick out the one in the middle. That's the definition of a median, and that's just more complicated than a simple average. OK, so that took about 20 seconds or so to go. And you can imagine what happens now if I want to put this on a dashboard. So here, before the show, I built this dashboard, and I pulled my median viz in here and added a quick filter at the top and put some interesting statistics below that. And even though the filter has helped me make the dashboard a bit faster because I'm doing the median on a smaller data set, I'm still getting this progress dialog between every interaction. And that's just not a delightful experience. OK. So what I want to do next is I want to share this with people in my organization. Think about what's going to happen, right? Someone else is going to sit down in front of desktop. They're going to load the workbook, and the progress dialog is going to come up, and they're going to wait for 20 seconds. Or a server user is going to sit down in front of a browser, and they're going to watch the spinner go round and round and round for 20 seconds. But why should they have to do that? I mean, I just computed the median, and they're going to get the same answer that I did. Surely we can make everything faster by avoid doing the same work that someone else has already done, right? To accomplish this, we are working on something that we call persisted query caches. And if you ignore the long name, it lets us share the query results between multiple users so we don't have to repeat work. And that means the next time that I or anybody else in my organization comes to this workbook and opens it, it opens immediately. So I just made this computation instant. And if I go to the dashboard, it's fast for the same reason. Look how fast that is. OK, you can imagine what this is going to do on server. Now, of course, server has had query caches for a long time. but it has a separate query cache for each process on each node of the cluster. And that means I'd kind of be lucky if I was going to hit one of those caches that somebody else already did. Well, persistent query caches are shared across all processes on all nodes of the cluster. And that means all users can benefit from the cache equally. So what might this mean for your server? Let's have 4 users hit that viz that I started with. Now remember, that one takes 20 seconds to load on today's servers. So here's 4 independent browsers. Christian and Mark, Chris and Ellie are working hard backstage. And after a brief countdown, they go and load the viz, and it loads instantly for all of them. All right. I agree. Now, if I can do that with 4, why don't I just do it with 9? So here's 9 independent browsers. And again, instant response from the server. So your server is doing a lot less work to support even more users. OK, so this has been a preview of the great things that are coming in future versions of Tableau. We're going to be leveraging the capabilities of modern processors and database systems to make Tableau vizes faster than ever before. Parallel queries and the persistent query cache will let you share these fast analyses with even more people in your organization. And best of all, we just shipped day 2, so this is us just getting started on great performance improvements in Tableau. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew Beers. Our next area of innovation this morning is data preparation. Data is the clay we use to mold our thoughts. It's the raw material of any analytics victory. Well, a goal we have over the coming years is to shorten the amount of time it takes to get data into Tableau and ready for work. We want to make it so fast and easy that you're constantly inspired to spontaneously bring data into Tableau for work. To show you our next steps in this area, please welcome to the stage our Senior Director of Product Management, Mark Reeder.
Thank you, Christian. Well, we've already seen a lot of exciting innovation this morning, and we've only just begun. To support the art of analysis, you have to have control over your data, yet allow unfettered experimentation. I get to show you how we're making this a reality. In version 8.2, we introduced a new visual connection experience, a canvas for your connection, if you will. It allows easy drag and drop addition of tables to my canvas. Here I have some microloan data from Kiva. It has loan information and the location of the loans. Tableau has automatically detected how these tables are related, and I can inspect this at a glance. As you know, without any further activity, I can go straight to my analysis. Connect and go, as we like to call it. But when we created this new data preview, we wanted it to be a place for you to experiment and prepare your data for analysis. So we have a rich preview for you below. In fact, Tableau has automatically done a lot of work for me. It's cleaned up these field names. It detected the data types. It identified key fields and a whole bunch more. We call this capability automatic data modeling. It's one of those little things you love about Tableau. And it shipped in version 8.2. I'm pleased to be able to introduce you to some of the things we're doing to make this data preview even more powerful and give you more control of your data. If we look at this loan info column, let me drag that out, we can see that it has several bits of information about my loan. It has a category, and then a slash, and then the loan activity, and a dash, and then finally the status of the loan. I want to use all 3 pieces of this loan info in my analysis independently. But where do I get started? Do I call the database guys and have them reformat the database? Do I write a bunch of crazy string calculations to parse this data out? We're adding a new capability called Split to give you control of this data right in the data window. Watch what happens when I click Split. Tableau automatically sampled that data, identified the delimiters, and created 3 new columns for me. I now have transportation, taxi, and paid. I have to click that first. I can rename these columns. Let's call this one sector. And let's call this one activity. Something close to activity. And I can go and explore the data. Let's look at those new columns. Here's that sector. I can see the loan amounts. They're just real fields in Tableau. If I want to experiment and see how this looks with some activities on there, I can add that. Maybe I'm interested in these fruit and vegetable loans. I want to see where they're being granted. I can keep that and add my location information to the viz. Uh-oh. Looks like I have a little problem. This field also has several bits of information in there. It has the country, the city, the state. I want to pull out that country information. But do I have to leave this delightful experience I'm having with my data and go back to that data preview? No way. Right here in the flow of my analysis, I can choose split right in my viz. So watch what happens when I click split. Again, Tableau detected a delimiter, and it automatically replaced my field with the 3 new fields. If I just want to keep the countries, I can get rid of those other columns I don't need, and now I have the answer to my question. The majority of these loans for fruit and vegetables are going to the Philippines. Throughout my analysis, I was in control of my data. But sometimes your data needs a little help before you can get it to Tableau. Since we're in Seattle, I downloaded some data from the web about seafood production. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Now I can see it all. This data is in an awful format for analysis. It's not good for me to understand, nor is it good for analysis tools. For example, if I want to see if salmon production is increasing, who knows? I need to use Tableau. But before I can get this to Tableau, I need to spend a lot of time cleaning up this Excel file. I need to remove these headers. I need to figure out what to do with this merge cell. And these guys are merged differently. I need to get rid of these empty rows, eliminate these footers, and probably a whole lot more. I see data like this all the time, and I'm frustrated with how long it takes to clean up the data, and that you have to repeat it every time the data changes. I'm sure you all have files like this. Well, we've been adding some data cleanup capabilities to Tableau to make these Excel files easier to connect to. So let me show you how it works with this file. I'll go back to Tableau and simply point at this Excel file. Whoa, I already have usable data. We're making Tableau smarter so that it can automatically detect the structure of your Excel files and identify the field names and the data without any input from you. All you need is the data. But some of you have noticed that I still have one big problem. All of these year columns. I'd rather have a single column with the years and another column with the values. Well, we have that now. We've added the ability to unpivot or reshape the data right here in the data preview. I'll just click unpivot, and Tableau reshapes the data on the fly. Let me rename this one to year, and I can now go answer that salmon question. Let's see the production over the years. We'll add the product. Here's salmon. Let's keep that. And now I have the answer to my question. After a sharp decline, salmon production has rebounded. Very nice. In just a couple of clicks, I was able to take an ugly Excel file and answer questions. That's just so fast and magical, I want to do it again. Here's a completely different Excel file. This one still has some header information, and the fields are structured differently. And it has this interesting unit field down below. Well, let's let Tableau have a crack at this one and see what it can do. Back in Tableau, I'll simply point Tableau at that Excel file. Boom, I have data. I have all the questions and the demographics, but again, I'd prefer these questions to be in a single column and the answers to the survey in another column. So I'll just choose the unpivot option and rename the column, and I'll be ready to explore the data. All right, question, a little bit bigger, answer. Let's change this to an average, and I'm done. Thank you. We are freeing up your time by making connecting to Excel files faster, easier, and repeatable. As you know, Tableau has an unparalleled set of capabilities for connecting to fast, live databases with optimized native connectors. We connect to analytic databases in cubes. We connect to big data in Hadoop. We connect to cloud-based data. And I've just shown you file-based data. We also have an API that allows partners such as Adobe, Alteryx, and Informatica to create optimized data extracts with their own data. But there's one type of data that has not yet been addressed: web services data. How do I connect Tableau to my internal web services, to REST APIs, to JSON data? I'm pleased to introduce to you this morning a new class of data connector, one that puts you in control. We call it our Web Data Connector. Let me show you how it works. As you came into Seattle, you may have noticed all the construction cranes around town. I wanted to find out what this was all about, so I went to the City of Seattle website to look up construction permits. But their interface only allowed me to search for a single permit at a time. I needed something better. So I used a little JavaScript and HTML to write a new web data connector. I'm just going to point Tableau at that file. I'll choose the new web data connector type. Here's the file I wrote. As the author, I am in control of this interface that is presented to the user and how Tableau is going to pull in the data from the web. I can choose some different options here and click Import. Anyone with JavaScript skills can write one of these connectors. This one took just 30 lines of code, and it only has 3 function calls to Tableau. Back in Tableau, we can see it's already pulled in the data, and I can see where these permits are happening. I'll just add a couple of fields there, and we can see everything going on. Lots of big projects here in downtown, and in Fremont, where Tableau's headquarters are, there's some more modest projects going on. At any time, I can refresh this data or pull in new data to Tableau. All right. A whole new world of web data has now been unlocked for you. I look forward to seeing how you, our partners and customers, leverage this web data connector to unlock a whole palette of data choices. I've shown you a bunch of exciting new capabilities that we're working on. The ability to unpivot and split and clean up Excel files and this new web data connector. We are getting you to your data faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. A few months ago, Tableau broke new ground by releasing a capability called story points. For thousands of years, our best ideas have been expressed in stories. All of the evocative moments of our lives, our memories, exist in stories, and Tableau's aim is to bring storytelling to the world of data. Tableau 8.2 lets you express ideas and stories that have structure and narrative arc and context. But that's really just the first release in a roadmap of improvements in this area called storytelling. To show you our next steps, please welcome to the stage our Vice President of Visual Analysis, Dr. Jock McKinley.
Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today to share the next developments in the Story Points feature. Christian said earlier that at Tableau, we believe the most exciting computing advancements are those that expand our creative potential. We want to unleash the creative genius in each and every one of you, all you data lovers in this room. Well, at Tableau, telling stories with data just got easier. We believe there are many ways to tell the story, where the canvas can come to life with every story you tell, visually creating your narrative and sparking new insights in the people who see your story. On this stage last year, Robert Cassara showed us the power of telling stories with data. I was really pleased when we shipped Story Points in version 8.2. This year, I'm going to tell you what we're working on right now, the next chapter in Story Points. Since some of you might not be familiar with the feature, I'm going to start by showing you how easy it is to author a story. I'm going to use the emissions data that Chris demoed earlier. The first thing you do is go to the main menu and start a new story. Every story needs a title, so let me paste one in. The basic user experience is simple drag and drop. So here's the admissions view. I can drop it out. I'm going to use a little keyboard magic here to enter my caption. This says China across the United States. One of the ways we make authoring really easy is we let you get multiple points off the same view. So, for example, I can duplicate this point and change the measure to be normalized by GDP. Type in the caption here, and I can update the point. This says that by GDP, they're both going down. We also have a very flexible user experience that also makes it easy to author. So for example, I can change to normalize the measures by population. I could update the current point, or I could save it to a new point, which is what I'm going to do right now, and enter that caption. China's going up by population. Now you can also drag additional views out into your story. And this gives me a chance to demo one of the small features that we're working on called View Thumbnails. Notice what happens when I hover over these sheets. We've noticed that people have trouble finding their particular view. So we now have these thumbnails. Here's the vehicle emissions view, and here's one by rank. The vehicle emissions view seems like a great one for this story, so I can drag it out and drop it into the view and add its caption. This one says vehicle emissions only helps United States. So that's enough for my story. I can now pop it into presentation mode and start to check the story and see how it looks. And oh yes, these story points are interactive. So here and also on the server, I can go play with the percent and see what impact it has in increasing the percent of vehicle emissions drops. So we've had very positive feedback since we shipped story points in 8.2. Behind me are examples of many of the stories that have been told on Tableau Public. Every time we ship a feature at Tableau, we get the opportunity to listen to you all, our customers and users, to figure out how to make the feature better. What we clearly see is that you want more expressiveness. In particular, you want control over the color, size, shape, position of the story points navigator. Let me demonstrate with 3 public workbooks. The first workbook is by Matt Francis about sunspots and weather. As I step through this story, you can clearly see that Matt has created a mood for his story. The sun and his data are bringing light to the darkness. However, the default story points navigator is competing with this mood. It's gray on a white background. What we're working on is giving Matt control over the fonts and colors of this navigator. Whoops. Let me go back and do that again, and I have no idea why there's a scroll bar here. Demo magic. Anyway, let me step to this story, and you can see that we've have much more control over the navigator. It's been colored to match the sun, and the font has been made white so that we can have the black go all the way to the edge of the presentation. And yes, these are interactive views, so you can see that Matt actually extends his storytelling art all the way to the quality of the tooltips. The second example is by Craig Butt about the housing boom in Melbourne. This is an example of a story that has a strong story arc. Look down in the view. There's a blue annotation here telling the story to you. And as I step through, you can see that the bar chart is growing in time, creating a visual narrative for the story. Here, he adds in geographic data to his story to give you the feel for it. In this case, the default story points navigator is competing with this strong story arc. It has descriptions pulling your eye away from the annotations in the view. And those descriptions are encouraging random access rather than encouraging the person to actually step through the view. What we're working on is giving Craig a navigator appropriate for linear storytelling. It's up here, small, and it has numbers, encouraging people to step through the story. We see this sort of navigator all the time on the Washington Post and New York Times when they have a strong story arc. We encourage people to step through. And then here, at the last place, is a place where the reader can get to play, increasing their engagement in the story. So for example, I can click on a particular neighborhood and see what kind of houses are being built in my neighborhood. We call this the martini glass rhetorical structure. The stem is the linear part of the story, and the wide part is the place at the end where you get to play and make the story your own. My third example is by David Taylor about the Social Security baby names database. David has taken advantage of the easy authoring and story points to collect observations about this database. Here's one about the nickname Harry. Here's one about conservative naming in the Reagan era. And here's one about how popular names are being given to fewer and fewer people. Evidently, we're getting more creative with our naming. These are independent observations, but the default story point navigator doesn't really support them. For one thing, there's a lot of text to describe each of these observations, and it doesn't fit into the space. And also, up at the top, there's a suggestion that there's actually a story arc here. What we're working on is giving David control over the size and the position of the story points navigator. We've moved it down to the bottom here, which is the natural place for a caption for an observation. We made it much larger so that there's more room for the text. And it's a sans serif font like you would find in a newspaper article or an academic article. So those are the 3 examples I'm showing you. We're trying to unleash the creative potential in each and every one of you. This is only the beginning. We see many more chapters for story points. Every day, I get to work with innovative and creative people, from computer scientists working on the next technical breakthrough to talented user experience designers who can envision the future. What you see behind me are explorations of the future of storytelling. We see many visual paradigms for navigating through stories. Our goal is a creative canvas. We want to unleash the creative potential in all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jock. It's becoming clear to more and more companies that unlocking the creative ingenuity of their people is an essential element of competitive advantage, a crucial aspect of creating a successful workplace. Companies are deploying Tableau to tens of thousands of people now, and some customers are preparing to put 100,000 people on the system. So our R&D team isn't just focused on making Tableau easy to use for business users. They're focused on making Tableau easy to administer and integrate and scale. To show you our next steps in this exciting area of development, please welcome to the stage our Senior Director of Product Management, Francois Agenstad.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's such a delight to be here. You know, over the past few months, I've had the pleasure of traveling from coast to coast and across several different countries to meet with over 50 of our enterprise customers. And I look forward to meeting many more of you in the future. Throughout my travels, I heard incredible stories of the successes that you've had with Tableau and how you've deployed self-service analytics at scale. One of the customers I met with is a major US retailer. And they're using Tableau for everything from store development, inventory management, and marketing analytics. They're deploying Tableau internally to over 12,000 people. Another customer I met with is deploying Tableau externally as part of their own customer portal. And they're seeing this as a competitive advantage for their business. And there's tens of thousands of people accessing those views every single day. Over and over again, I heard amazing stories of deploying self-service analytics across the entire enterprise in a secure and scalable way. It's just been incredible. Now, we're investing in, and we'll continue to invest in enterprise capabilities to support your deployments. In fact, a year ago at this conference, I announced new capabilities, such as support for 64-bit, SAML for single sign-on, and support for external load balancers. Those capabilities have been included in Tableau 8.1 and Tableau 8.2, and they're already in use by thousands of organizations worldwide. But we're never done supporting your deployments. We're making investments to provide you with a scalable, resilient, and easy-to-manage platform with built-in governance. This includes making high availability easier to administer with more flexible options. We're enabling faster failover detection with improved alerting. And we're enabling you to add unlimited active data engine nodes so you have increased scale. And this is just the beginning of what we're doing to enable any organization to have a mission-critical system. But to enable self-service analytics at scale, you need a solution that is secure. And we've got great capabilities in the product today to ensure that you have a secure environment that leverages your user authentication and authorization rules. But we want to give you even more flexibility. With Tableau 8.3, that will be coming up later this year, we'll be adding support for Kerberos. So Kerberos is a user authentication standard that's used across enterprises to provide single sign-on authentication from the client all the way down to the database. In addition, if your organization uses smart cards, you'll now be able to log in directly from Tableau Desktop. Another big area of investment is around APIs to enable new extensibility, automation, and integration of your Tableau deployments. In the last year, we've added a number of new APIs, including a JavaScript API, a data extract API, and a REST API. And customers everywhere are using these APIs to build brand new solutions. One customer I met with actually built a brand new custom toolbar for Tableau Server to make it easier for their users. Another customer used the REST API to build an onboarding solution for their users that automates adding new users and new sites to their deployment. In the coming year, we're going to be adding some of the most requested functions to these APIs to give you more flexibility, including the ability to publish content and assign permissions programmatically. Our vision here is that everything you can do on server can be done via these APIs. Now, these are great capabilities for IT. But what are we doing to unlock the creativity that Christian mentioned? And how do we enable that across the entire organization? Well, let me show you some of the capabilities that we're adding for the business user. So here, we're looking at Tableau Server, which will deliver an improved experience to help you find, consume, and manage your content more easily. The first thing you'll notice is that as I scroll through my content, it just appears, available instantly. I no longer have to go from one page to the other. It's all just right there. And this works great whether you have 100 workbooks or hundreds of thousands of workbooks. All your content instantly accessible and fast. If I were to search for a particular user, let's say Chris Stolte, one click and bam, instant results. It's that fast. Let me go in and look at maybe content about sales. Sales, one click, and it just appears like a search result from Google. Every operation that I do, from searching and filtering and sorting, is all fast, immediate, and direct, just like the rest of Tableau. Now let's go ahead and look at this one workbook right here about sales operations. You'll see that it loads almost instantly thanks to the performance improvements that Andrew mentioned. We have these fast tooltips. But let me bring your attention to the top left of this view. We now have for every view a breadcrumb that gives you information about where this view comes from, what workbook it belongs to, what project it's part of. That gives you the information to help you find and navigate your server more easily. Now, when I click on the workbook, you're now brought into a new page for workbooks. Every workbook will have a page like this. They'll give you the title and a description for your workbook. You'll be able to see all of the views that are part of this workbook. You can look at the data sources that are part of this workbook. In this case, I have one from Salesforce, Excel, SQL Server. That was a nice little improvement. People like that. We're trying to make this easier for you. We now have access to a details page where every attribute of this workbook can be edited and modified. The description, the project that it's in, the owner, the tags, and the tabs. But in this case, I'd like to look at permissions. Now, we know that permissions management can be complex and tricky, but it's important for you to ensure that your content is secure and only the authorized users have access to their content. And so we took the years of building visual experiences and brought it to Tableau Server to help you secure your content. So in this case, I can look at these permissions. I can click on All Users, see all the members of the All Users group, and really quickly understand the permissions of that group. I can look at a particular user, let's say Adam Jaschke, and try to understand, well, why does this user have these particular permissions? Well, if I move my mouse to the right, you can see the feedback at the top. That's telling me, oh, Adam has these permissions because he's part of All Users, but he gets these permissions because he's part of his sales operations, and he gets this one additional permission because it's been explicitly added for him. Understanding permissions has never been easier. Now let me go ahead and add I love permissions because I love ensuring that the right people have access to the right content all the time, and this just makes it easier. So we have a new employee in our company. His name is Art Vandelay. He used to be an importer-exporter, but now he's joined our company, and we're going to add some permissions for him. And to add permissions, I just click, and I'll give him save permissions. I'll deny download, 2 clicks, and he's been denied. And save, and just like that, the permissions have been defined. Everything is visual, direct, and immediate, and easy to understand. It's that simple, and we want to take that whole experience to all of Tableau Server. Now, in the coming year, you'll see some big improvements around high availability. You'll see improved performance and scalability. You'll see support for Kerberos and smart cards, new APIs for extensibility, this brand new server experience to make it easier for you to find, manage, and secure your content. And this is just the beginning of the investments that we're making to help you deploy a mission-critical system and ensure that analytics are deployed across your organization at scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francois. Our final updates today have to do with the platforms that will help you unlock the power of creative computing for your people. The first is our investment in the cloud. Cloud technologies are near and dear to Tableau's heart because they're so important to our own business. As a company founded in 2003, Tableau was one of the first companies ever to go public with 100% cloud-based infrastructure powering our own operations. Our financial system is NetSuite. Our CRM system is Salesforce and always has been. Marketing automation, Eloqua, expense management, Concur, and so on down the line. We're a cloud-first buyer, just like many of you are, and we strongly believe that over the coming years, a large portion of your business analytics initiatives can be completed entirely in the cloud. To update you on our next steps, please welcome to the stage Vice President of Product Marketing, Ellie Field.
Now, Christian talked about the cloud-based enterprise. For cloud analytics to be a real option for your complete business intelligence solution, you need 4 things. 1, you need to be able to connect to cloud data sources. 2, you need to be able to connect to data in business applications in the cloud, like Salesforce. 3, you need to be able to connect to good old on-premise data. And 4, you need to be able to get those analytics to where you do your work. Just over a year ago, we launched Tableau Online, a hosted version of Tableau Server. It lets you get going with shared analytics in minutes. Let's use Tableau Online to see how you can get a complete analytics solution in the cloud. Let's say I'm selling a new kind of device. This device generates massive data as customers use it. One of Tableau's customers, Sling Media, is doing exactly that. They sell the Sling Box that lets you watch live TV on any device. So if you're on the road and you're going to miss Game of Thrones, Sling has your back, because you have to be able to talk or tweet about that episode the next day. Now, I want to collect and analyze all that usage data, but that's a lot of data. Sling uses Amazon Redshift, a data warehouse in the cloud, together with Tableau Online. They have a big data infrastructure, and they set it all up without having to provision any hardware at all. And that was the first thing we needed, the ability to connect to a cloud data warehouse. Now, Sling's use of the cloud inspired us, and I want to show you a scenario a bit like theirs. Here's a dashboard with usage data from Redshift, tracking real-time usage on a device, much like Sling does. I've got some sessions, usage time, and charges. It's all published onto Tableau Online, so I can view it securely and share it with others. Now, many of you may not know that Tableau Online can have a live cloud-to-cloud connection for data that lives in the cloud. Let me repeat that. A live cloud-to-cloud connection. Tableau Online is fantastic with cloud data. We can query it live with great performance and always highly secure. So let's look at this data and filter into the last few days. The mouse isn't working. There we go. Let's filter into the last few days, and I'm going to go into the hourly level. And let's just tooltip over, and we can see that we've got sessions in the data right up to this very hour. A live cloud-to-cloud connection with big data. Now that's fresh. Now, Redshift is a great data source for fast-moving, huge data like usage data. But my business runs on Salesforce. And so I want to mash this usage data up with my Salesforce data. And if you remember, that's the second thing that we needed, the ability to connect to data in cloud business applications. Here's a dashboard of current opportunities blended with current usage. My sales team likes to look at this to understand the value a customer is getting from our devices. The data on the left is from Salesforce.com, and the data on the right is from Redshift. And as we just saw, it's fresh because it's live. Now, I want my Salesforce data to be up to date too, but there are so many different workbooks and data sources to manage. If only Tableau Online could help me keep my credentials in one place and let me manage it centrally. Luckily, we recently added a way to do just that, using an industry standard called OAuth. I'm just going to go to the data sources page, find the connection, the data source for this workbook, and edit it. And now I'm going to tell Tableau that I would like to use my central credentials, and Salesforce is going to ask me to log in. I'm not creating a new account here. What I'm doing is authorizing Tableau to access Salesforce on my behalf in a secure way. This means much easier management of cloud data sources and an easier way to keep all of your cloud business applications fresh. And by the way, I could also do this for Google Analytics or Google BigQuery. And we're going to continue to add cloud data sources because we know these are an important source of business data. Now, cloud data is great. But in real life, most of us have on-premises data, lots of it. When we set out to build Tableau Online, we wanted to make sure that it can work with all your data so that you can answer any question. And if you remember, on-premise data was the third thing that we needed for a complete cloud business analytics solution. In fact, the top two data sources used with Tableau Online today are Excel spreadsheets and SQL Server. We've seen how easy it is to keep cloud data fresh in Tableau Online. What about keeping all that on-premises data fresh as well? Well, we're adding a capability called Tableau Data Sync that will help you publish on-premises data to Tableau Online. With Tableau Data Sync, your machine will act as a secure agent to take that data from an on-premises database and push it up to the cloud on a schedule that you define. And you can manage your schedules and get the status of your data right in Tableau Online. Is it fresh? Is it stale? Now I know, and I can manage it. And that was the rest of the data that I needed. But if you'll remember, the fourth thing we needed was the ability to put dashboards wherever I need them. And as I said earlier, my business runs on Salesforce. Once I've got a great dashboard with fresh data, I want to give it to my salespeople so that they can have better conversations with customers. Just recently, we added the ability to embed interactive dashboards from Tableau Online right into Salesforce. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We released an add-in called Sparkler. It works with Heroku and the Salesforce Canvas Toolkit. This means you can get analytics embedded right inside the systems where people do their work every single day. Now salespeople can get a view of the opportunity in Salesforce, together with the usage data from Redshift, and finally support tickets from an on-premises database right in the same view. It's all embedded in Salesforce, and most importantly, it's all fresh and updated automatically. And of course, the data is interactive. I could filter or go to a tooltip and open an opportunity straight from the dashboard. And I can see some other analytics embedded right here on this opportunity card. When analytics are in context, they become much more powerful and much more likely to have an impact on your business. And salespeople can act on it right in the flow of their day. In just a few minutes, we've seen how Tableau Online can connect live to a cloud-based data warehouse. We've seen how it can get you fresh data from business applications and fresh on-premises data. And we've seen how you can embed those analytics right back into business applications. A complete analytics solution hosted in the cloud to help you get the right data to the right people at the right moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie Fields. Our final update today has to do with the exciting area of mobile analytics. Creative computing is our theme today, and this is the most inspiring creative computer of the last decade. We're making big investments now to help people be effective and creative and inspired on this new platform. You may use our mobile application today, but it's just a start. We have a whole roadmap coming, and to show you the next advancements, please welcome to the stage our Vice President of Mobile Products, Dave Story.
Thank you. Hey. Well, I could not be more excited to show you the future of Tableau Mobile. We are rewriting portions completely from scratch. We're rethinking every detail. And we are making the app faster, more powerful, and we're making your data the star. Well, let me show you. Let's grab my iPad here. Love my boys. And launch Tableau. Now, I'm opening it up in a recent view, so I'm seeing thumbnails of all the visits I've looked at recently. And this is our new native UI. So watch as the Chrome goes away as I scroll up. Right. Now, we also know that speed is critical to your creative process. So we rewrote it to be faster than ever. Let me show you as I scroll. And remember, none of these thumbnails are cached. They're all coming live off the server. And as I scroll up, you can see them flow in. And look how fast I can scroll. Right. Tableau Mobile is faster than ever. But we also think you need to be able to experiment. We want you to answer new questions with just your finger. So let me go back to the top and go back. You can see that in the top left, I have a viz of San Francisco home prices. And when I tap in, I get a big, beautiful map with prices. And I can tap around to quickly see these prices. Looking through San Francisco. Ooh, ouch. Well, we know that you want more. No matter how good the viz is, there are always extra questions. So I'm going to tap Edit up here in the top right-hand corner. Now, we added editing in version 8. And what you see when you launch it is a familiar editing interface. Right? And here on the left are my measures. And I can just tap on list price and drag it over here to size. Right? I'll tap on the viz, and I can see right away the big circle show me the most expensive places to buy in San Francisco. Now, if I tap back to editing, you can see I've got list price over here and square feet down here. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could just divide these on a mobile device and get price per square foot? Well, I'm happy to tell you that we are bringing calculations to mobile and web for the very first time. Yeah, I know, right? And here's how easy it is. I'm just going to tap on list price and choose Create Calculated Field. Okay, I get our new interface, and I'm going to name this field Price Per Foot. Okay, great. Okay, now I want to divide list price, so I'm just going to tap up here and choose Divide. And then I'm just going to drag square feet right into that. Boom, I have a custom calculation. Apply, dismiss, okay? And I can use it right away. Here it is, price per foot. I'm just going to drag it out and put it on color. And right over here in the map, you can see that I have a big, beautiful viz and I've used that new calculation right away. So calculation authoring has come to mobile for the very first time. All right. Okay. And we're just getting started. Chris showed a lot of new analytics features over here. All that drag and drop analytics goodness is being designed to work on all platforms. We are not designing it to be mobile later. We're designing them all to be web, mobile, and desktop, all at the same time. So mobile's getting more powerful, but how are we making your data the star? Let me go back up here, and you can see I've got the favorites almost ready. But your favorites deserve special treatment. They should be front and center, like this. Bigger than ever, really easy to read, and beautiful. Right? And we're also listening to you. You want speed. You want to be able to tap on a favorite and instantly see it full screen, like this. Bang. Big and beautiful, full screen in one tap. And then, maybe you're on your way to your next meeting. Right? Maybe you're busy. You want to keep track of your data. You want to just swipe through these. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Look how fast and easy it is to stay on top of your data. This is the fastest Tableau mobile we've ever made. Yeah, thank you. But let me show you one last feature that you've also been asking for. Okay, I'll go back to favorites. Okay. Now, sometimes you don't have an internet connection, but you still want to see your data. Maybe you're visiting a customer, or maybe you're out visiting your crops in a field. That's why we're adding the ability to view beautiful snapshots of your favorite vizzes even when you're offline. And here's how easy it is. I'll just tap Settings over here on the right and choose how often I want that to be fetched. I'll choose 1 hour, and now, with just 2 taps, you're done. And now Tableau Mobile will securely fetch big image vizzes once an hour whenever you're on your network. So whether you're between meetings at work or between stops out on the road, your current snapshots of your favorite vizzes are always at the ready. So you just saw how Tableau Mobile is faster than ever, has a new native touch experience that makes your data the star. You can author drag and drop calculations. You can view big, beautiful snapshots of your favorite vizzes even when you're offline. We're excited about Tableau Mobile, and we hope you are too. Now, you might be wondering, why am I still up on the stage, right? Well, you know how in every demo we've been saying we're just getting started? Well, that's true for mobile too. And you special people are going with us on our mission to help the world see and understand its data. And that's why we want you to be the first people to hear and see the beginnings of our vision for mobile analytics. And our vision starts with a simple question. What do you do if you have just a tablet and you get an email with a table of data in it? You want to understand, you want to see that data with no server, no cloud, just your tablet. Well, we looked, and even though there's over 1 million applications in each of the major app stores, there's just no good app for that. Well, we think there should be. So today, for the very first time, I'd like to show you a whole new app we're building. Now, when we were designing this app, we rethought everything. We wanted to make a new experience where you could explore your data by feel. We wanted you to have feedback that was fluid and immediate as using a pencil. And we wanted you to be able to use your hands to shape insight out of raw material. And we wanted it to be fun. And maybe, just maybe, stretch the definition of mobile analytics a bit. We call it Project Elastic. Let me grab my iPad and show you the app. Great. I asked a local sandwich shop to send me their sales data. And here it is in my email. OK. So I have a file as an attachment in my email, but how do I see and understand it? Well, before I was stuck. But now I can simply tap in and hold and choose Open in Elastic. Now, Elastic automatically gives me a useful view right away. Here it is in a category view with the items sorted highest to lowest. And at the top, I can immediately see the top selling menu items are catering and the daily special. Right? And by the way, that white circle is my fingertip, so you can see what I'm touching. Now, when I see data, I want to immediately explore it and get a feel for it. So I want to scroll up and look through all the menu items that are for sale at this sandwich shop. That was fast, but let's see what else we can do. Now, how should I filter data in an app built for touch? Well, wouldn't it be great if I could filter out with just a swipe? Well, I want to filter catering out, so I'll just grab it and drag it to the left. All right? Catering's out. Out, in. Out, in. OK, let's leave catering out. So filtering is fast and easy. You just reach out and touch your data. But let's do more. How would I switch between categories in this data? Now, wouldn't it be great if I could just examine categories with just a flick? So I'll just grab this green menu item title and drag it to the left. And bang, I've switched categories. I got another useful view right away. I can immediately see that lunch is by far the biggest meal at this shop. Again, I switch categories just by swiping. And now I can see sales by day of week. OK, now I'm thinking, what is it if I put catering back in? Because all the days look about the same. If I put catering in, bang, I immediately see that Friday is far and away the biggest, including catering. Better here or here? Here or here? OK, all right. So filtering and comparing data is fast and fluid. OK, but how should I switch aggregation? Let's say I want to go from sum to average. Well, in Elastic, you can touch everything. So I'll just grab the sum here. Let's actually go back to menu items. I'll grab the sum here and say I want to switch to average. There's my average. There's my sum. Right? Okay. So I can compare immediately with just a small motion. And when I let go, of course, Elastic sorts to give me a useful view right away. We'll go back to sum. OK. Now I've learned enough to answer some questions, like, what's the top seller at lunch on Monday? OK, how would I answer that question in an app built for touch? OK, well, let's go back. I'll just put catering back in. I'll go over and choose, OK, I want to keep only lunch, so I'll drag that to the right. Right? And I only want to keep Monday, so I'll drag that to the right. And let's look at the menu items. Bang, there it is. The daily special is far and away the top seller at lunch on Mondays. Fast and easy. Well, now I want to know how my top dish is performing over time. So let's go back. I'm just going to put everything back in and choose to keep that top dish only just by dragging to the right. Okay. So how easy could we make it to compare performance over time? Well, I'll just tap this timeline up here in the top center and immediately get a gorgeous timeline view. Right? And across the bottom, I can see I have data for February, March, and April. Right? And Elastic has naturally divided the months into calendar weeks. Now, this is my #1 dish, but the sales are falling rapidly, and I want to know exactly how much. Well, I'll just tap on this first week here, and immediately I get a green selection box with very simple and clear labels. Right? I can see that I've sold about 700 dishes for about $5,000. Not bad, but how much has it declined over time? Well, I'll just stretch this box out and see the change week over week. This is so fast and easy. But now, I need to get action on my insight. I need to share what I see. So I want to be able to do that, of course, in just a couple of taps. And I can. I'll just tap up here in the top right, choose Email Image, and bang, you've got Viz. So we just saw data from a restaurant. But we've used Elastic to analyze data from a whole range of subjects, from fitness and sports to finances and science. And we've looked at some small files, and we've looked at some really big ones. And it raised another question. Can Elastic be fast and fluid even with a lot of data? Well, to answer that, let's look at data from a totally different domain. Up here in the top left, I have a list of recent data files that I've opened in Elastic. And we really like that sunspots example. It has 64 years of daily observations. Let me open that up. Now, how fast and fluid can Elastic be with tens of thousands of data points on an everyday tablet? Well, let's see by exploring the timeline view a bit more. Watch the horizontal axis at the bottom as I zoom into the data just by stretching with my fingers. And we'll go from decades to years, from years down into months, from the months down into weeks, and ultimately right down to the individual data records. And I can also understand aggregation a little bit better. When I zoom back out to weeks, I see the weekly average smoothly transitioning to the dailies. So I can really start to understand how aggregation works with this application. And when you can literally touch your data this fast and fluid, the app disappears. And it's just you touching your data. Now, we all love our data. And at Tableau, we really love getting into our data. But sometimes zooming to level 10 just isn't enough. Sometimes you need to go to 11. So we thought it would be fun. What if we could reach in and see what's inside an individual record? Like this. Oh, yeah. Can you tell we're having fun building this? OK. What did we just do? We looked at two very different data sets. We filtered, we analyzed, we measured performance over time, and then we shared an insight, all with just Elastic and an email file, start to finish, in less than 5 minutes. The hardest part about Elastic is explaining how amazing it feels. And that's why we're working hard to get Elastic ready to put in your hands. And I'm inviting you to be the first to sign up at Be Elastic, our early access program. We'll also be holding a special Meet the Makers session on Wednesday at 6 p.m. so that you can learn more about our design philosophy for mobile and data analytics. Please join us on our journey as we invent the next generation of mobile analytics. Thank you.
Well, I hope you can see we're busy investing in the future. We've shown updates in a range of areas today, and keep in mind we have many more advancements coming other than what we've shown today. But I hope the theme is clear. Our goal is to liberate the creative energy stored in each of you. Energy which is too often suppressed because it hasn't had the proper channel for activity. We want to grant freedom to the ideas trapped in your minds, awaiting just the right canvas to be released. In this room are people building the future of employment and prosperity. As data leaders, you are inventors and innovators and artists and path makers. I can say with confidence that when the creative energy of this room is fully unleashed, the world will never be the same again. We hope to be your partner on that grand journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next sessions will start